YouTubers, welcome back to AZ2 Ozarks. It is November 11th and we have had 3 nights that were below freezing a few weeks ago, but then it warmed right back up into the 70s and even 80s. We've had beautiful, beautiful weather and, well, we are facing winter now. Today it has dropped down. I think it's only about 48 degrees outside, even lower than that with wind chill. There's a potential snow tonight starting at like 1 a.m. and we are facing at least every night in the 10-day forecast in the 20s. There's one night that may get down to 19. So I'm out here in my hoop house, which is unheated, but the daytime sunshine definitely makes it warmer in here, so it's actually quite nice. But I want to give you a before and an after to see if my fall crops can survive this cold weather. So I've got a bunch of Mizuna over here, which is an oriental green. I'm not too confident that it'll make it into the 20s, but we'll see. I have beets over there, onions. In the middle, I have lots and lots of pea plants. Over here, I have some more beets and turnips. And going down all the way to the other end, I have my cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower. In case things don't survive, I have harvested a bunch of chard here, a few little peas, some calendula flowers, a bunch of spinach. The spinach is actually outside of the hoop house, and komatsuna, I think is what that oriental green is called. Let's go down here. So I have a lot of little guys that aren't quite established yet. I'm not sure how they're going to do. I'm really hoping that we can make it. I am going to cover with blankets for a second layer. The tatsoi is supposed to be good down to about 10 degrees. So those guys should be okay. This is all Chinese cabbage, and I'm not too sure, but I will be covering them. This one is like a yellow heart variety. It's super pretty. And then my broccoli plants, they had been devoured by caterpillars, and so I trimmed them back, and now they're looking much better. Daddy Longlegs came in and saved the day and ate up those caterpillars, so that was nice. I don't have much going on in the middle. The cauliflower's on that side. I do have one of the Marvel of 4 Seasons lettuce here, a cabbage. I don't think that the oregano will make it. This one is the Zatar oregano, and I really like it. I've trimmed a whole bunch off of it and will be covering it, but last year I think the frost killed it off. I have small kale plants, and actually just because they're small may work in their favor for this cool weather. It seems to be things that get up higher are more likely to have trouble. And these are different cabbages. Of course, my calendula flowers are mixed in between. With the last cold temperatures, the purple cabbage did not do well. I trimmed it all up, but you can see it just has some little tiny leaves starting back on it, and some of them died. And then more cabbage. There's a little pepper. This one was a bell pepper, I believe, or maybe that was a banana pepper. It's hard to tell anymore, but the plant had died and I had cut it off, and look, there's little pieces that came back because this weather's been so crazy and confusing. But here we are in the greenhouse before the real winter hits. We'll see in a couple days how everything is faring. Well, it dropped down to 27 last night, and we got our first snow. This is unseasonably early for snow. This is the 3rd fall we've been here, and this is definitely by far the earliest we've gotten snow. Right here are my radish rows, my spinach, there's my lettuce. So I didn't cover anything last night because it was only supposed to get down to about 31 and forecasted not having snow, but this was kind of like a last minute surprise. I'm not going to open the greenhouse until the sun comes up. I'm hoping that the snow has helped insulate it a little bit and keep it somewhat warmer. And I think it's too light now. It's still pretty early in the morning, but I have Christmas lights in there. I can't see them now. but I can see condensation on the inside of the plastic, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but we'll check it out here in a couple hours. Wow, I can't tell you how relieved I am. This is the first time coming into the greenhouse for today. All of the snow has melted off. The high today only got up to 33 degrees and it's only 24 with wind chill. We're at the end of the day, but look at this. It looks like everything fared okay. I am so surprised, but tonight the low is supposed to get down to 19 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I'm going to use blankets and sheets and cover these plants what I can. The peas I won't be able to. They're obviously some of them as tall as I am. But wow, I'm really excited that everything seems to be okay so far. Let's get down here a little further. Take a look at the tatsoi, okay. Chinese cabbage. Here's our broccoli. All right, everything is looking okay. I'm actually surprised, but this is only the beginning. We have temperatures getting down into the teens in the next few days, so, and the chard especially. Chard usually doesn't tolerate frost very well, but look at that. So maybe it was dry enough here inside the greenhouse that it was okay. Let's hope it continues. Last night was our 4th night in a row of very freezing temperatures. Last night was down in the low 20s. So out of these 4 nights, we've had 2 nights in the teens. One was 19, one was 18, and 2 in the low 20s. Last night, we also received our 2nd snow of the season. And while it was quite a bit more than what it looks like, it was a very wet snow, so it didn't really stick. But let's just take a quick peek around. And so it looks as though the radish tops are all toast with all this freezing temperature. And that's okay, but the radishes underneath are just fine. And so we actually had a few of them last night in our dinner, in our soup. So we have, this is almost like a winter storage when you leave your root crops until you harvest them, but then their tops just aren't growing anymore. And I did cover up the spinach because I knew it was supposed to rain and then get to freezing temps, and I didn't want it to have the wet. So let's see how the spinach fared. And there's the spinach, looking good. Not frozen at all. Working our way down the line. It's such a contrast from the garden in the summer, of course, but the sage hasn't had any covering at all, and it looks like it's doing well. Until recently, I wasn't even aware that it's a perennial, but how cool is that? It may die back in the winter, especially as we get colder, but it will still be there next year. I covered the lettuces with pots for the same reason. I didn't want them to get wet and then freeze. But look at that. That's the marvel of 4 seasons lettuce. It is just beautiful. My son did some cardboard here. Let's see. I have a curious kitty following me this morning. Go on, Tommy. This one I don't think was faring as well to start with. Yesterday it was looking a little bit shabby, but still alive, not too bad. Here's a big one. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. If you can keep eating out of your garden through the winter, how cool is that? So these varieties are just so hardy. And there we go. That's actually the Rouge de Hiver, which I believe means red of winter, and it's doing pretty well. This one didn't get covered, and it's not looking as good. We'll have to wait till, watch out, Tom. He wants to be the star of the show, I guess. Hey, what's going on? Oh, not to be left out, there's Kenny. Hi, kitties. So back to the lettuce. it's looking good. And over here, the winter choy is just truly amazing to me. So of course the carrots are still okay in the ground, and those you just pull up as you eat. They actually get sweeter. So the winter choy is made to be like hardy to, I think, 5 degrees without cover. And look at it. It is just crisp and beautiful, totally unaffected, and I haven't covered it a single time. Now we're back inside the greenhouse, and you can see that things look just about the same as they have for the last few days. So the first night that we had the really cold temperatures, I believe was the night it got down to 19 degrees. And I had covered with sheets inside the greenhouse some of the plants, and that would be these over here. The peas never got covered. So the peas are down the center and they never got covered. Now, some of the plants that were not covered didn't do that well, and others did. Like these ones, the komatsuda, didn't get covered and it was fine. The tatsoi was fine. But after the first night, I started covering more of the plants because I had seen an effect on some that hadn't been covered. So like these broccoli were covered and they look great. I don't know that the heads will get any bigger now that the days are so short, but these broccoli weren't covered the first night, and you can see how sad especially the greens are. So I'll likely just be harvesting these small heads and we'll eat them. But everywhere where it was covered really did phenomenally. So I'm feeling pretty impressed. It looks like 2 layers of cover is the key to keeping things going. Now this one was a surprise. This is za'atar oregano, and last winter it died off really quickly in the winter, and I didn't expect it to keep going. But with a sheet over it inside the greenhouse, it is still looking pretty good. So I had harvested a bunch of it before the frost and kind of made it really small. But if I can overwinter this, that would be wonderful, because it takes a very long time to get established in the spring. Very low germination rates too. The cabbage didn't do as well. That was uncovered. And I don't know that they'll continue growing at all and put on heads, so that might be a loss. These broccoli weren't covered the first night, but covered subsequent nights. The purple cabbage really did poorly. And I had already lost some of these cabbages, but due to a combination of the first frosts we got, as well as the cabbage worms. But again, the covered cabbage seemed to do better. We'll get down over here to another surprising item. Now the cauliflower uncovered did very poorly, but the plants were not very healthy to start with, and the cauliflower heads that were forming were already showing signs that they were like beginning to rot or something like that. And this one doesn't look too bad. I'll just harvest these today and bring them inside. But here's an example of one that you can see is just rotting. I don't know what the gig is. I don't know if it was too wet or maybe it was too hot in the greenhouse the last couple weeks. It's really hard to tell. These are also cauliflower. Did much better. Where's my focus? There we go. Did much better with the colder temperatures, but they don't really have heads on them. So this was the other surprising item, and this is chard. Chard usually isn't that frost hardy, but with the sheet, it's still looking really nice, and it's crisp and not showing signs of damage. So I was quite happy with this. The whole point of this video was kind of because I received a challenge from a fellow local farmer, and his challenge was to grow something that you can harvest every month of the year. Not just one thing, but grow a variety of things so that every month of the year you're harvesting, even if it's just one thing a little bit. And so, of course, I'm not one to pass up a challenge, and I accepted the challenge, and I wanted to try different varieties and frost hardy things and see if through simple basic methods of using old sheets and things like that if I could get some items to overwinter. Now, they may not put on much growth, but are they things that will still be in the soil and they don't have to be preserved and I can just harvest as we want to eat them? And so that's kind of what I'm doing here, and I wanted to demonstrate to you. I give you the same challenge. Can you try and maybe put it into your plan for next year to have something growing that you can harvest every month of the year? And if each of us do this little bit, it reduces the stress and the pressure on our delivery systems, our reliance on huge farms that don't have good practices. So we can all work on this just a little bit at a time. And I've been surprised with some things and disappointed with others, but we do still have a lot going on in the garden, and I will learn from these lessons and continue to try moving forward. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to keep following our adventure.